Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are flipping through my old journals and as you can see we are at my real desk and not my temporary one because I actually filmed this video a while ago. So let's start with the most recent one. That's my reading journal from the end of 2022 to 2023. The first page just had the star and spice rating, and then for the actual cover spread I just did collages because that's what I like, and I was heavily inspired by Plant Based Bride here on YouTube. I'll link her channel down below. The goals are similar to how I do them now, and from November 2022 to I think December 2023, I read 28 books. I had the goal of 24, so for my first year reading, that was very good. On my TBR, I had many fantasy books. That was until I realized that I didn't love fantasy, but I read 8 books from the 24 of my to be read. But that's okay, I use the TBR for recommendations and not obligations. That's why now I call it Maybe Next. My book of the year was Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. It was my first dark romance book and I love it. I actually did an entire monthly theme about it. Then we have my series tracker. That's pretty much how I still do this spread. It's simple and easy to track. The alphabet challenge wasn't very successful because instead of reading and marking the letter, I gave a book to each letter and tried to read it, but it didn't work so well. I never did this one again, but I did pretty good on this romance trope challenge. I gave a book to each trope and tried to read it, and I read 9 out of the 13. The initial spreads are done, so we are now beginning the monthly spreads, starting with November 2022. I started this in November because I didn't want to wait till January, so that's your sign to start a journal whenever you want and not wait until the right month to do it. This month I read the first 2 books of ACOTAR, and that's how it remains until today because I DNF'd the 3rd book. Don't get me wrong, I really like the story, but fantasy isn't for me, at least right now. And then I read Twisted Love by Anna Wong. I will keep this style throughout the entire journal, so I really like to print out book-related photos and fan art, and at this point I didn't have many stationery, so I just decorated with what I had and printed out some photos. In December I read Twisted Games, the second book in the Twisted series, and The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and again I dropped the second book. This was a story that I actually didn't love, so if I don't like it, just drop it. No need to waste my time reading something that I don't enjoy. Then we have January, and in this month I read 3 books. I started the Dreamland Billionaires series with the fine print and terms and conditions by Lauren Asher, and I also continued the Twisted series with Twisted Hate. For February, I did a Valentine's theme, which is typical for me to do that in this month. Not just romantic love, but also self-love, friendships, and so on and so forth. And I read the last book in the Twisted series, which is Twisted Lies. And I did a spread just for this series because it was the first book series that I finished, and I really liked it, so I did this homage. And my favorites are in this order: first Twisted Games, 2 Twisted Lies, 3 Twisted Hate, and 4 Twisted Love. I also did this little interactive thing for the covers, but it didn't really work out that well. Moving on, I started the Kings of Sin series by Anna Wang with King of Wrath, and we are now moving on to March. Sometimes I like the packaging of some stickers or ephemera, and this little card on the left page is that packaging of stationery that I keep to use in this type of spreads. Now I do a calendar on the left page in my reading journal, but maybe for 2026 we can change things up, who knows? I just read The Final Offer in March, which is the final book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, so let's see April. We start the month with another series spread. My favorite book from this series was The Final Offer, followed by Terms and Conditions, and finally The Fine Print, which is basically the reverse order. Then we have Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas, which was not so great. If you follow me regularly, you know that I stopped reading books by Penelope because I just don't love them, and I actually DNF'd one pretty recently. You can see that in my April reads. I DNF'd Corrupt, and I just couldn't continue, so I'm not reading any more of her books, unfortunately. I just don't vibe with her stories. For May, we have 3 books. I read Icebreaker by Anna Grace, the first in Maple Hills trilogy, then Hooked by Emily McIntyre, which is the first in the Never After series, and then we have The Deal by Elle Kennedy, also the first in the Off Campus series. So a lot of new series to continue. It's funny that I also did a lemons theme for June in my bullet journal. I guess I relate June to lemons for some reason. And in this month we have The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, King of Pride by Anna Wong, and Scarred by Emily McIntyre, which is my favorite book from the Never After series. So in June, I guess I'm continuing the series that I started. July was a good reading month, full of 5 stars, starting with Wretched by Emily McIntyre, then The Score by Elle Kennedy, and to finish the month we have the 4th book in the Never After series, Twisted by Emily McIntyre as well. In August, I decided to read my baby Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, and I decided to not start reading dark romance with this book because I didn't want to traumatize myself, which I'm glad that I started dipping my toe in softer dark romance books with the Never After series. And then for a palette cleanser, we have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. For September, I did a coffee theme for the cover spread, which I think I have to do a coffee theme as well for my bullet journal in the future. And this month I read The Doctor by Nikki Sloan and The Room at Risk by Talia Hibbert. Not a very good reading month since I didn't love these books. In October, I read 2 adorable romance books. I read The Cheat Sheet and When in Rome, both by Sarah Adams. Not my favorite romances, but if you love cute and a good story with, of course, very lovely romance scenes, Sarah Adams is one of the best. But I still prefer the action, suspense, and morally grey characters of my dark romance books. In November, I finished The Cat and Mouse Duet with Hunting Adeline, and then we have King of Greed that I didn't have time to do the quote page, but it's here that I started playing around with other ways to make my book spreads. And if you watched any of my reading journal videos from 2024, you may recognize this style since I did that reading journal with this style. And then I just put a note of the books that I had to do spreads for, but I never got around to do them. So I finished 2023 with The Goal by Elle Kennedy, Crossed by Emily McIntyre, and Priest by Sierra Simone. And that's it for this journal. I just have to go back and write the end date because I forgot, and then let's move on to the next one. This is a chunky one. This is my anime, manga, webtoon, game journal, so basically my media journal. And it's my pride and joy. I love flipping through it, it just boosts my creativity. I had to start with my favorite Donghua, Modao Zushi, or the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. I highly recommend, it's so good. And for the cover spread, we have my boy Albert James Moriarty from the anime Moriarty no Patriot with a cute academia collage. Then we have one of my favorite romance animes, Kaishu wa Maid-sama. It's so cute. And we have a spread dedicated to Albert with the Vogue style because that was a trend on Instagram at the time and I wanted to do it. I love reading boys love or yaoi mangas or webtoons or wherever, so I do quite a lot of spreads for them. And here we have I'll Make You Hate Me on one side and Angel Buddy on the other. Next we have my beautiful, amazing and perfect Wei Wuxian, or Healing Patriarch, from Modao Zushi that I mentioned before, and a fun fact is that we share birthdays on Halloween, and he's a Scorpio as well, so I relate quite a lot to him. I started playing Genshin Impact at this time, so I did a spread for the Traveler Lumine. Then I also started watching the first season of Arcane, and I don't think I mentioned, but this journal started on January 2022, so I did spreads for V and Jinx, and one page for Mel and a page for Caitlyn. I like to do spreads for each arc of the Genshin Impact story, so I did one for the first arc that was the Storm Terror. And then we have more manga and manhwas, Crush Into Me, and my favorite character from the manhwa The Sweetest Man, that's Min Hun. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering every name and title, but bear with me please. Then was this trend of the perfect date with your anime boyfriend or something like that, so I picked the best one, that's Usui from Maid-sama that I mentioned before as well. And here we start my interactive spreads with the Bodyguard Team Meme edition, and I think it's from the manhwa When the Yakuza Falls in Love. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is. Then we have my two favorite female characters from the Inazuma region from Genshin Impact, that's Yae Miko and Raiden Shogun. Next we have Blood Link and As You Wish Prince. They are both manhwas. Also, if I call a webtoon a manhwa or vice versa or anything else, excuse me because I don't know the differences very well, so I might be wrong with some of them. Then we have Zhongli, also from Genshin. It was the reason why I started playing it, but I don't play it anymore actually. Here is my cute boy Mia from Skate Infinity, and I left the page on the right for another character, but I didn't do it for some reason. Next is the Liyue arc of the Genshin story, followed by one of my favorite characters from the game, that's Child, or aka Tartaglia. Next is Ningguang with a little thread that I glued to the page to make it more fun, and then two cute stories, Strawberry Sweet that I missed one of the R's in the title, and Sultan's Love. I did one of those personality tests and I'm an INFJ, and I thought it was fun to do a spread with characters that have the same personality type as me, and some of them are Sugawara from IQ, Michaela from Seraph of the End, Kuroko from Kuroko no Basket, Miyano from Sasaki to Miyano, Armin from Attack on Titan, and Albert from Moriarty no Patriot. Also, some of them can be totally wrong. I just searched on the internet and it gave me these characters. Then here you have one of my favorite spreads, that Shenhe from Genshin. Since she lives in the clouds, I thought it would be fun making clouds, but with cotton. Moving on, we also have Toma from Genshin, and I left the page for another character, but I end up not making it. And next we have a cute interactive spread for one of my favorite manhwas called A Bittersweet Couple. I really love the story, so I decided to make a little interactive spread for it. Here we have Ayaka, another Genshin character. She was my favorite and I used to have her on my team, so I really like her. And next we have three characters from the manhwa Why Reliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. I read this before it was adapted to an anime and I also saw it, so I was a little bit annoyed when they changed some things on the anime, but I just love the story and the characters. I also did a spread for a fun little challenge, the black and white collab, and I chose Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen for this because I love him and I thought it was perfect for a spread like this. Next we have Kokomi. She wasn't one of my favorites, but I really liked her color scheme, so I just did the collages and then I forgot to come back and write about it. But it's okay. This journal is done, but I still have to show you some loose spreads that I did on my reading journal before it was for reading. I was going to use it as a game journal, but I really didn't have that many spreads to do, so I ripped these pages off and I used the journal for my books. First we have my girl Ellie, because Last of Us is my favorite game, also including part 2, and then we have Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and next a random spread for a manhwa called This is an Obvious Fraudulent Marriage. And it's done. Let's just check what I have on the back pocket of the journal, which I think it's more images from manhwas and animes to journal about, but didn't come around to do it. So now let's see what I have in my last journal that I have to show you, and it's another media journal, so let's open and see. This was an idea that I had. You saw my Vogue spread for Alberto, so I thought it was fun to do Vogue covers for other characters, and I did 3 for the BL anime Dakaretai Otoko. Then we have some unfinished spreads that me and my best friend did. I did one for the anime Seraph of the End, and she did one for Noragami. I did a spread for how I got into anime. Long story short, I watched Winx Club, that I know it's not an anime, but I also saw Mermaid Melody, it was so fun, so that's how I eventually looked up similar stories and started my anime journey. Collage for food in anime because I always dreamed of tasting those foods, and I will one day when I eventually go to Japan. We are entering my Jujutsu Kaisen spreads, starting with Gojo, and here is a little watercolor drawing that I did for him that I thought turned out so cute. Next we have Sukuna, and then a fun little spread for the ending theme of Jujutsu Kaisen, Lost in Paradise. Moving on to the anime Skate Infinity, we are starting with the protagonist Reki. Then here's a spread for Renga, that's the ship between Heiki and Langa, that's so cute. And next is another ship called Matcha Blossom, that's between Joe and Sherry. They are my favorites, so I did a little pop-up in the middle because they are always arguing. Moving on to the manga slash manhwa slash whatever it's called section, we are starting with the manhwa Here You Are. And then we have a page for each, Walk on Water, Biting the Tiger, and Tale of the Yellow Dragon. Next we have Hello Green Days, and a fun interactive spread for Cherry Blossoms After Winter. For the last spread in this section we have Sign, which is really adorable. And now let's move on to the next section that I named Miscellaneous. First we have a little crossover between Demon Slayer and Seraph of the End with Shinobu and Shinoa, since they have similar aesthetic, design and also name. Oh my god, we are entering cringe territory, but let's go through it. Here we have my husbando list. I didn't remember this at all, but it was basically all the anime characters that I really liked or thought they were husband material or just handsome, and inside each envelope we have the list for each character on each page from top to bottom. I also put the characters in a hair color order from white, yellow, red, blue, brown and black. Next we have a very heavy spread for the two characters in Modal Zushi. On the first spread we have the ship between them called Wang Xian, and when we open the spread we have individual spread for each character. We have Lanza with a white theme and Wei Wuxian with a black theme because they are pretty much the opposite but they complement each other. Moving on, we have Death Note, and also a spread for KDA since it was a group that I listened to at the time, and actually when I started listening to the songs I didn't know that they were a group from the League of Legends, so when I learned that I started playing, but it wasn't for me. Next we have Gyu Tomioka from Demon Slayer. Here we have an experiment with a plastic folder that I had and made for the trio of Attack on Titan. And then we have Yuli from the anime series The Jaeger. Next is a spread for Moriarty the Patriot. I really love this anime, it's so good, and if you love Sherlock Holmes and that universe, you'll love this one. Then I made a spread for cute OVAs or original video animation, but it didn't work. And then I have this little accordion situation that I did a tutorial for in a Cherry Blossoms spread. And with that, this journal is also done. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little different than usual, but if you did, give a like, subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications, and let me know in the comments which journal was your favorite. I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!